Rain pounded the streets outside, a relentless rhythm that matched the storm in her chest. Every drop seemed to echo the turmoil she felt, each strike a reminder of how alone she truly was. Emma Carter pressed her hands to her swollen belly, the tiny life inside moving restlessly as if sensing the tension in the air. She had imagined this moment countless times, dreamed of it, planned for it, but reality was nothing like she had pictured. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead blending with the distant rumble of thunder. Outside, the city blurred behind sheets of rain. Inside, her world had shrunk to the narrow hospital bed, the monitors tracking her heartbeat and the fragile pulse of her unborn child. Her husband, the man she had trusted to be her partner through everything, was nowhere to be seen. His absence was a physical weight, pressing on her chest, making it hard to breathe, as if the room itself conspired to crush her spirit. She had learned long ago that life rarely unfolded the way one hoped, that people she had counted on could vanish when it mattered most. But she hadn't imagined betrayal arriving in such a stark, brutal form. Emma gritted her teeth as another contraction ripped through her body, sharp and unrelenting. She clutched the bed rails, knuckles white, murmuring words of encouragement to herself, a mantra to stay grounded amidst the chaos. The door creaked open, and for a fleeting second, hope flickered in her heart. Perhaps it was him. Maybe he had finally come to see her, to apologize, to promise that everything would be okay. But the figure that stepped inside was not who she expected. Tall, poised, with an air of quiet authority, the man's presence seemed to fill the room in a way that was impossible to ignore. His eyes met hers, not with pity, not with judgment, but with a calm certainty that somehow promised safety in the middle of the storm. "I know this isn't what you expected tonight," he said softly, his voice steady, grounding, like a lighthouse in the midst of a raging sea. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Emma blinked, trying to comprehend the words. Her mind raced with confusion, disbelief, and a strange, cautious hope. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, but the exhaustion, pain, and fear tangled her tongue. The man stepped closer, not invading her space, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "You're stronger than you think," he continued, his gaze unwavering. "And you won't have to face this alone." Something in the way he said it, the sincerity behind his calm demeanor, caused a flicker of courage to ignite in Emma's chest. For the first time in what felt like hours, she allowed herself to breathe, even if just a little. The contractions continued to come, fierce and unyielding, but now there was a thread of hope weaving through the pain, connecting her to something beyond her despair. Minutes passed, the storm outside showing no signs of relenting. Yet within the walls of that small hospital room, a quiet transformation began. Emma's fear, which had felt as suffocating as the storm outside, began to loosen its grip. She focused on the tiny heartbeat on the monitor, steady and unwavering, a reminder that life, no matter how fragile, had a way of enduring. When the moment finally came, a cry shattered the room, a small, perfect sound that cut through the tension like sunlight piercing dark clouds. Emma's heart swelled with a mixture of relief, awe, and overwhelming love as the nurses placed the newborn on her chest. Tiny fingers curled around hers instinctively, and she whispered a vow she meant with every fiber of her being. "You will never feel alone. Not while I'm here." The man who had appeared in her darkest hour stayed by her side, offering silent support, letting her lead, letting her decide every step, proving that sometimes, when life seemed cruelest, it had a way of sending someone unexpected to rewrite the story. And in that moment, Emma realized that while the storm outside had raged endlessly, a new chapter was beginning inside, a chapter of courage, of love, and of hope that no storm could ever extinguish. The days after the birth were a blur of soft lights, hushed voices, and the constant, tender rhythm of a newborn's breathing. Emma's body ached in places she didn't even know could hurt, and her mind was a storm of exhaustion, relief, and lingering fear. She stared at her daughter, the tiny bundle in her arms, and felt an unshakable sense of responsibility and, somewhere deep inside, a fragile spark of hope. It was a hope that had been nearly extinguished in the chaos of the storm, but now it flickered with an intensity she hadn't felt in years. She barely noticed the door opening at first. Her world had shrunk to the warmth of her daughter, the rhythmic hum of the hospital monitors, and the steady drizzle tapping against the window pane. But then she heard the soft sound of footsteps, deliberate yet unintrusive, and turned her head to see the man who had appeared when she needed help most. His presence had something undeniably calming about it, as if he had arrived in her life precisely when the world had tried to abandon her. "You're doing well," he said quietly, as if speaking louder would shatter the delicate balance of the room. His eyes met hers with a kindness that made her chest tighten. "Both of you." Emma's lips trembled, unsure whether to trust the sudden surge of reassurance. I don't know what to say," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I wasn't expecting any of this." "You don't have to say anything," he replied, his tone gentle. "You just have to keep going. That's enough. And right now, you're doing more than enough." She studied him in silence, noticing the small details, the calm steadiness in his posture, the way his eyes softened when they lingered on her daughter, the faint crease in his brow that betrayed concern even when his words seemed composed. Somehow, despite the chaos of the past hours, she felt herself begin to breathe more freely. Perhaps life wasn't entirely cruel, after all. As the hours passed, Emma realized that she had been carrying more than the physical weight of childbirth. She had been shouldering fear, abandonment, and the echoes of disappointment that had shadowed her for years. And yet, here was someone who offered no judgment, no expectations, only support and quiet presence. The thought was startling, and she caught herself wondering how someone could enter a life so abruptly and change it so profoundly. The man didn't speak much, only appearing when necessary, offering guidance and reassurance when the nurses stepped away. At first, Emma resisted the comfort of his presence, unsure if she could trust it. But slowly, cautiously, the tension around her shoulders began to ease, with each small act handing her a warm blanket, adjusting the monitor, softly commenting on her daughter's tiny gestures. He proved that strength could arrive quietly, unassumingly, in moments when the heart needed it most. Evenings blurred into nights. The storm outside had long since passed, but a different kind of weather persisted in Emma's heart, a mingling of hope, fear, and gratitude. She found herself talking to her daughter in whispers, recounting fragments of her life, making promises she intended to keep. "You will never be left behind. You will never feel alone. I will protect you, always." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of every hardship she had endured and every lesson she had learned about resilience. And then came the first smile, tiny and fleeting, that made her chest ache with emotion. It was a smile that seemed to say, "I am here, and I am okay." She looked at the man who had been silently supporting her, and for the first time, she noticed the faint smile that had mirrored her daughter's, the warmth that reached his eyes. "I don't know your name," she said softly, almost afraid to break the fragile quiet of the room. He hesitated, then answered, "Call me Lucas. And you? You're stronger than you realize, Emma. Don't forget that." Emma studied him, seeing not just a stranger, but someone who had arrived as a guardian in her most vulnerable moment. She wondered if life always had these unexpected turns, if moments of despair were sometimes the prelude to miracles she couldn't yet see. Over the next few days, as she learned to care for her daughter and navigate the new reality of life with a newborn, Lucas remained a steady presence. He never pushed, never demanded, never intruded, only offered help when needed and gave space when it wasn't. Slowly, a bond began to form, fragile but undeniable, built not on expectation but on respect, empathy, and shared humanity. One evening, as rain whispered against the window once more, Emma finally allowed herself to speak the question that had lingered in her heart. "Why are you here? Why did you come when everyone else turned away?" Lucas paused, the faintest shadow of a smile crossing his face. "Because sometimes," he said softly, "life puts people in your path not to take what you have, but to remind you of what's possible. And tonight, you and your daughter reminded me that courage can be found in the most unexpected places." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet hope that perhaps her story was no longer defined by loss or abandonment. Perhaps, in the midst of pain and uncertainty, life had a way of gifting resilience, love, and connection when it mattered most. And for the first time since the storm began, She dared to believe that tomorrow might bring not just survival, but the possibility of joy. The first weeks at home were both exhilarating and terrifying. Emma had imagined that the hardest part was giving birth, but she quickly realized that the real challenge was learning to navigate life outside the hospital walls. Each day was a mixture of joy, exhaustion, and moments of panic that stole her breath. Her daughter's tiny cries could pierce through the fog of sleep deprivation, and she would hold her close, whispering words of comfort and reassurance she sometimes struggled to believe herself. It was in those moments, arms wrapped around her child, heart racing, that she discovered a well of strength she had never known existed. The rain that had once felt oppressive now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the soft hum of morning sunlight filtering through the curtains. Yet, Emma could not shake the lingering fear that life might turn cruel once more, that happiness might be fleeting. She found herself glancing at the empty side of her bed, wondering when the absence of her husband would hit her hardest, when the weight of abandonment would return like a tidal wave. And yet, Lucas, ever steady, ever patient, was there, a quiet anchor in the storm of her thoughts. He arrived without ceremony, as if he had always belonged in the small apartment that smelled faintly of baby lotion and fresh laundry. "How are we today?" he asked gently, placing a small basket of supplies on the counter. His presence was calm, unassuming, yet it carried a weight that made Emma feel both safe and seen. She hesitated, then admitted softly, "I'm scared. I don't know if I can do this. If I'm enough." Lucas knelt beside her, meeting her gaze with unwavering attention. "You're already doing it," he said quietly. "You've been brave through everything life has thrown at you. That courage hasn't disappeared. It's right here, in the way you're holding her, in the way you keep going even when it hurts." Emma felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief and exhaustion, and for the first time, she allowed herself to lean into the support being offered rather than resisting it. The act of letting someone in, of accepting help, felt foreign and frightening, but there was a warmth in it she could not deny. For the first time in years, she felt that the world was not entirely against her, that perhaps there were people who could step into her life and make it a little lighter. The days began to blend together, feedings, diaper changes, gentle walks in the quiet park nearby, moments where the city's noise faded and it was just Emma and her daughter, two hearts learning the rhythm of life together. Lucas was there in the background, never overbearing, always attentive, offering guidance when needed and stepping back when it was time for her to learn her own strength. Slowly, Emma began to realize that the presence of another person did not diminish her independence, it amplified it, offering reassurance and courage when the nights were long and the days overwhelming. One particularly quiet evening, as her daughter slept peacefully in her arms, Emma found herself speaking aloud the fears she had kept locked away for years. "I'm scared I'll fail her, that I won't be enough to protect her from everything life throws our way," she whispered. Lucas, sitting across the room, looked at her with a steady gaze. "Emma, listen to me," he said softly. "You are enough. You've been enough from the moment you first held her. Being strong doesn't mean never feeling afraid. It means facing fear and moving forward anyway. And that is exactly what you're doing." The words settled over her like a warm blanket, and Emma felt the tension in her shoulders ease for the first time in weeks. She realized that strength was not always about grand gestures or heroic acts. It was in the quiet persistence, the small daily choices, the willingness to face life with courage even when the world seemed uncertain. As the days turned into weeks, Emma noticed changes in herself that she hadn't anticipated. She laughed more easily, her smiles were more frequent, and the weight of past heartbreaks began to feel lighter. She discovered joy in the mundane, the sound of her daughter's tiny fingers exploring her face, the first giggle that burst from those small lips, the simple comfort of warm tea and quiet mornings. And through it all, Lucas remained a silent witness, offering support without expectation, his presence a steady reminder that life could still offer kindness, even in unexpected forms. One evening, Emma ventured out to the park with her daughter nestled in the crook of her arm. The city stretched before her, bustling with activity, yet for the first time in months, she felt a sense of calm, a belief that she could navigate life on her own terms. Lucas walked beside her, matching her pace, but never crowding, letting her take the lead. "You've grown so much in such a short time," he said quietly, glancing down at her with a gentle smile. "It's remarkable." Emma looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and surprise in her eyes. "I wouldn't have believed that I could feel this way again," she admitted. "I thought I was done with hope, done with believing that things could get better." Lucas's smile deepened. "Hope never truly leaves us," he said. "Sometimes it's buried, hidden under fear and pain, but it's always there, waiting for us to notice it again. And right now, you've found it." Emma inhaled deeply, letting the words settle in her heart. She realized that life was no longer about surviving the storm. It was about learning to dance in the rain, to find moments of light even when shadows lingered. And as she held her daughter close, feeling the steady beat of that tiny heart against her chest, she knew that this was only the beginning. The journey ahead would not be without challenges. But Emma felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in years, a quiet, unshakable confidence that she could face whatever came next, with courage as her compass and love as her guide. She was ready to embrace the life waiting for her, a life filled with possibility, resilience, and the promise of unexpected joy. Emma stood at the edge of the park, her daughter tucked snugly against her chest, watching the sun dip low over the horizon. The world was bathed in gold, shadows stretching long across the pavement, and for a fleeting moment, she felt as though time itself had slowed, allowing her to breathe fully, to exist without the weight of fear pressing against her chest. But beneath the warmth of the fading sunlight, a familiar unease stirred, a whisper that life would not remain calm for long, that challenges would come whether she was ready or not. Lucas walked beside her, the quiet rhythm of his steps a grounding presence. He had become a constant in her life, not by force, but by choice, offering guidance and support, never overshadowing her strength. Yet even his calm demeanor could not erase the anxiety that gnawed at her from within. She had learned the hard way that life could shift in an instant, that trust was fragile, and that moments of peace were often temporary. "You're thinking too much," Lucas said softly, glancing at her with a knowing smile. "You always do that." Emma laughed softly, a sound she had not realized she had missed until now. "I can't help it," she admitted. "After everything, I can't just trust that it will all be okay." He reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Trust doesn't mean expecting perfection," he said gently. "It means believing in your ability to face whatever comes, knowing you're not alone." She stared at him for a moment, the weight of his words settling into her chest like a small, comforting stone. For so long, she had felt as though she had to carry everything alone, as if leaning on someone else was a sign of weakness. But now, watching the way he moved beside her, not overbearing, not demanding, just present, she realized that strength could be shared. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of learning, adapting, and reclaiming parts of herself that had been buried under years of doubt and hardship. Emma began taking small steps toward independence, managing her daughter's schedule, organizing her home, reconnecting with friends she had distanced herself from, and even exploring new opportunities that had once seemed out of reach. Each victory, no matter how minor, filled her with a growing sense of confidence and pride. Yet rebuilding her life was not without its hurdles. Nights were long and sleepless, filled with the cries of a child who depended entirely on her. Days were unpredictable, with unexpected bills, errands, and the constant balancing act of caring for a newborn while trying to reclaim a sense of identity beyond motherhood. And through it all, Emma grappled with the lingering echoes of her past, the pain of abandonment, the fear of being left again, the memories of trust broken. One rainy afternoon, while rocking her daughter to sleep, Emma found herself staring out the window at the storm gathering outside. The familiar pattern of rain tapping against the glass reminded her of nights she had endured alone, when fear had seemed insurmountable. She hugged her daughter closer, whispering promises she intended to keep. "I will protect you. I will not let the world break you. You will know love, safety, and courage." Lucas entered quietly, holding a small tray of tea and warm towels. He placed them gently on the table beside her, then crouched to meet her gaze. "You're doing beautifully," he said softly. "Every day, you're proving that courage isn't about never being afraid, it's about moving forward even when fear is present." Emma's eyes welled with tears, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and lingering vulnerability. Some days, "It feels like too much," she admitted. "Like I'll never be able to handle all of this." He shook his head gently. "You already are. Every struggle, every tear, every small victory, it all proves your strength. And remember, you don't have to do it alone." The simplicity of his words struck her with unexpected force. For so long, Emma had measured her worth by her ability to endure alone, never realizing that allowing support did not diminish her courage, it enhanced it. Slowly, she began to accept that asking for help, leaning on someone who truly cared, was not a weakness, but a testament to the resilience she had cultivated over years of adversity. As the days turned into weeks, Emma noticed subtle transformations in herself. Her laughter became more frequent, her smiles more genuine, and the weight of past heartbreaks no longer pressed as heavily upon her chest. She discovered joy in moments she had once overlooked: the warmth of sunlight on her skin, the rhythmic pattern of her daughter's breathing as she slept, the quiet satisfaction of completing tasks she had once feared. One evening, while preparing dinner with her daughter resting peacefully in her high chair, Emma reflected on the journey she had undertaken. The storm that had once defined her life, the abrupt abandonment, the fear, the uncertainty had not disappeared, but its hold on her had lessened. She had discovered that resilience was not a single act of heroism, but a series of choices, repeated daily, to face life with courage, love, and determination. Lucas entered the kitchen, carrying a small potted plant he had picked up earlier that day. "I thought this might brighten the space," he said, placing it carefully on the counter. "A reminder that growth can happen even after the harshest storms." Emma smiled, touched by the simple gesture. "Thank you," she whispered. "It feels like life is starting to feel possible again." He nodded, his eyes reflecting quiet pride and admiration. "It is," he said, "and you're the one making it happen. Every step, every choice, you're reclaiming your life, and no one can take that from you." For the first time in months, Emma allowed herself to feel a deep sense of hope. Unshaken by fear or doubt, she realized that the journey ahead would still hold challenges, but she now possessed a newfound confidence, a belief in her own resilience, and the understanding that she did not have to face life alone. With courage as her compass and love as her guide, she was ready to embrace the next chapter of her life, a chapter filled with possibility, growth, and the promise that even after the darkest storms, the sun could rise again. The first light of dawn spilled across the city, painting buildings in hues of pink and gold. Emma stood by the window, cradling her daughter in her arms, and watched as the streets slowly came alive. The world outside seemed vast, full of possibilities she had once thought were forever closed to her. The small apartment that had once felt confining now felt like a sanctuary, a place where she could breathe, dream, and take the tentative steps toward the life she had always wanted but never dared to pursue. Her reflection in the glass caught her off guard. The woman staring back was not the same woman who had cried alone in the hospital weeks ago. The lines of fatigue still marked her face, but beneath them shone resilience, determination, and a quiet pride that had been forged in fire. Holding her daughter close, Emma whispered softly, "We've come this far. We can go further." The sound of soft footsteps pulled her attention. Lucas appeared in the doorway, carrying a steaming mug of coffee. His presence, calm and steady, had become a constant she had grown to rely on, not because she needed someone to lean on, but because he reminded her of the strength she already possessed. "You look like you're planning the next big adventure," he teased gently, setting the mug down on the table. Emma smiled, her eyes lighting up with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Maybe I am," she admitted. "I've been thinking about starting that project I always dreamed of, something that's just mine, something I can build for us." Lucas's gaze softened, admiration clear in his eyes. "Then do it," he said simply. "You've proven that you can face anything life throws at you. Don't let fear or doubt stop you now." The next few weeks became a whirlwind of preparation, research, and small victories. Emma dedicated herself to her project with a focus she hadn't known she could muster, balancing the demands of motherhood with the excitement and challenges of building something entirely new. There were moments of exhaustion, moments when the weight of responsibility threatened to overwhelm her. But each time she faltered, she found the courage to continue, drawing strength from the bond she shared with her daughter and the quiet support Lucas offered without question. One evening, after a long day of planning and organizing, Emma sank into the couch with her daughter asleep in her arms. The apartment was quiet, the soft hum of the city outside the only sound. She felt a surge of pride at how far she had come, at how she had turned fear into action, doubt into determination, and isolation into connection. And yet, even in this moment of triumph, a part of her remained cautious, aware that life had a way of testing resolve when least expected. Lucas joined her, sitting down gently beside the couch. "You've grown so much," he said, voice low and sincere. "Watching you step into your power. It's inspiring." Emma looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and disbelief in her expression. "I never thought I could feel this capable," she admitted. "After everything, I wasn't sure I'd ever trust myself again." He reached out, placing a hand over hers. "Trust comes from within," he said, "and you've earned it every step of the way. You've faced fear, pain, and uncertainty, and you're still standing, stronger than ever. That's worth celebrating." The warmth of his words settled over her, a gentle reassurance that she was on the right path. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future not defined by hardship or loss, but by growth, possibility, and love. She could see herself building a life where challenges were met with courage, dreams were pursued with determination, and setbacks were simply lessons that shaped her resilience. The following days brought new opportunities. Emma presented her project to a small network of professionals, receiving encouragement and support she had never anticipated. Each positive response fueled her confidence, reminding her that the world was not as unkind as she had feared. She found herself speaking with clarity and conviction, advocating for her ideas and embracing her own voice, a voice that had been quieted for far too long. Through it all, Lucas remained a constant presence, never overshadowing her achievements, only amplifying her confidence with his quiet support. Together, they navigated the balance between independence and connection, learning that strength could coexist with love, that resilience could be nurtured alongside hope. One afternoon, while walking through the park with her daughter laughing in her arms, Emma felt a profound sense of clarity. She realized that life had tested her in ways she never expected, but those trials had also shaped her into someone capable of embracing joy, taking risks, and stepping boldly into the unknown. She glanced at Lucas, who smiled knowingly, and felt a deep gratitude for the role he had played, not as a savior, but as a reminder that courage could be shared, that love could be steady, and that the future was hers to shape. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Emma whispered to her daughter, "We've come so far, my love, and this is only the beginning." The words carried a quiet determination, a promise that no matter what challenges awaited, they would face them together with courage, resilience, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. The first rays of sunlight spilled through the curtains, warming the room and illuminating the soft, rhythmic breathing of Emma's daughter. She lay beside her, tracing tiny fingers along the curve of her cheek, marveling at the fragile perfection of this little life that had once seemed so impossible to protect. A sense of peace settled over her, not the fleeting kind that came after hardship, but a deep, enduring calm born from months of growth, courage, and unshakable resolve. Emma rose quietly, careful not to disturb the tiny sleeper, and moved to the window. The city was awakening, a symphony of movement and sound, each note a reminder of the world's endless possibilities. She felt a stirring of excitement and anticipation, a sense that today was not merely another day, but a beginning, a moment where all the effort, the struggle, and the heartbreak she had endured converged into clarity and purpose. The journey had been far from easy. She had faced nights of despair, moments of doubt so sharp they had cut through her resolve, and the lingering echoes of abandonment that threatened to hold her back. Yet, standing here now, she could see that every challenge had shaped her into someone stronger, more resilient, and more capable of embracing life fully. She had learned that strength was not simply surviving adversity, but transforming it into opportunity, hope, and love. A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Lucas entered, carrying a small stack of papers and a warm smile. His presence, steady and reassuring, had become a pillar in her life, not a crutch. but a reminder that connection could enhance resilience, not diminish it. "You've got mail from the network," he said gently, placing the papers on the counter. "Looks like some exciting opportunities are opening up for you." Emma took the papers, her fingers trembling slightly as she read the invitations to present her project, to collaborate with others who recognized her talent, and to step into a broader world that had once felt closed to her. A thrill ran through her chest, a mixture of disbelief, pride, and anticipation. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen, not as someone defined by struggle, but as a person capable of achievement, creativity, and leadership. "I never thought I'd get here," she admitted softly. Glancing at Lucas, it all seemed impossible before. He shook his head, his eyes reflecting admiration. "You got here because you never gave up, because you faced everything, and you chose to keep moving forward. This is the life you've earned," Emma, one built on courage, determination, and love. The day unfolded like a promise fulfilled. Emma navigated meetings, presentations, and conversations with a newfound confidence. Her voice steady, her ideas clear, and her passion undeniable. Each interaction reinforced the lessons she had learned, that resilience was born, not from avoiding difficulty, but from confronting it head-on, that love could be both gentle and empowering, and that her worth was defined not by the failures of the past, but by the choices she made in the present. In the evening, Emma returned home, her daughter laughing as she played with small blocks on the living room floor. The sight brought a swell of emotion, a reminder that the struggles of the past months had led to this moments of joy, fulfillment, and connection that were richer for the hardships endured. She knelt beside her child, lifting her into a gentle embrace, and whispered, "We've made it this far, and there's so much more ahead for us." Lucas joined them, sitting quietly and watching the scene unfold. His presence was a quiet affirmation that life could be both challenging and beautiful, that resilience and support were not mutually exclusive, and that love, when offered without expectation, could be a source of strength rather than dependence. As the weeks passed, Emma's life continued to flourish. Her project gained recognition, collaborations led to new opportunities, and she discovered an inner strength that allowed her to navigate challenges with grace and determination. The bond with her daughter deepened, each day revealing new layers of joy, love, and mutual discovery. Emma realized that motherhood, once a source of fear and uncertainty, had become the anchor of her courage, inspiring her to face life's trials with unwavering resolve. One evening, as she walked through the quiet park with her daughter nestled in her arms, Emma paused to take in the scene. The sky was painted with shades of orange and purple, the air crisp and alive with possibility. She glanced at Lucas, who walked beside her with a gentle smile, and felt a profound sense of gratitude for the people, experiences, and challenges that had shaped her journey. "I never imagined life could feel this full," she admitted, her voice soft, almost reverent. Lucas nodded, his expression warm. "It's because you chose to fight, to hope, and to keep moving forward. Life has given you these gifts because you earned them with your courage." Emma held her daughter close, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat against her own. She understood, finally, that resilience was not a destination, but a journey, a continuous choice to embrace love, pursue dreams, and face the unknown with unwavering courage. And in that moment, she felt a profound certainty. No matter what storms might come, she and her daughter would face them together, stronger than ever, guided by hope, determination, and the unshakable bond of love. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long golden rays across the park, Emma whispered a promise into the quiet evening. "We will face everything together, and nothing will break the courage we've built. Our story has only just begun."